Howdy guys, it's Joe here today talking about a top 500 gameplay with a Zarya player, that being Harblu. You guys wanted this, so here we go. Now, as far as the player himself, I feel like he is very skilled, and there's also a lot to be learned about from his Zarya, so we're just going to kind of be talking about that, seeing anything we can learn, and just kind of talking about overall how his gameplay is working out. Now, the first thing that I'd like to say is a really cool move that his whole team made right here that I guess that they could have made with voice comms, but even without voice comms, your simple positioning can help your team actually do this. And that is trying to position the enemy team near a choke point. Now, of course, a lot of the time, it can be kind of easy to see where a choke point is, right in front of us we see a choke point. But some other places might be a little bit harder to see. For example, this bridge right here is actually a pretty nice choke point. A lot of people think you can just walk straight through it, but not always. And what they did, which was really smart, is control the back and the left. So it kind of pushed the enemy team all to the bridge. There we go. They're stuck at the bridge. We can just kind of body them from there. And after they got that wipe, now they can just continue pushing them up onto the bridge. And overall, just keep wiping straight through them. Right here we got an amazing ultimate charge. Of course, all of them are right next to each other. And since this Zarya has been on the bridge the whole time, getting charge up, that ult's going to do a lot of damage. Of course, her regular bullets are going to do a lot of damage, and overall, you can just kind of melt straight through people. And one thing that I would like to say that you might want to think about when you are playing Zarya is to kind of play like this guy has been, where you are a frontline tank. I feel like a lot of people kind of think that Zarya simply can't really tank. I mean, she's in the tank category, people know that she is a tank, but they feel like she's a little bit too squishy, and oftentimes, you kind of just want to walk in there, take a little bit of damage, and then walk out, and just do a lot of damage yourself, as you do have very high DPS. And while that can be a pretty good, run and gun-ish strategy, I feel like another really good thing that you can do is what this guy's doing, which is standing pretty close up to the front, and making so that the enemies either shoot him, of course, and they have the possibility of him putting up his shield and just getting charged, or they can, on the other hand, just not shoot him. But if they don't shoot the guy in the front, well, they aren't going to be getting any damage out. So it kind of puts a really awkward situation. We see it right here. If they happen to shoot the Zarya player, well, he's going to put a shield up and he's going to get a lot of ult charge. Well, if they don't, they're just kind of stuck on the bridge. It's weird positioning that you kind of have to get used to, but overall, as Zarya, it's a thing that, once mastered, can win you a lot of games. Yeah, it's pretty simple, but pretty smart. A cool thing that we saw right there, you can just shoot it on the ground. What he could have done, I guess, is shot it a little bit to the left. We've seen this in so many play of the game montages. You can put it on the wall, it'll pull people through the wall, towards the wall, and then they're going to fall straight into the pit. You can do that on a lot of maps, namely Ilios, of course, Legion Tower, as we see right here, and just quite a few other maps, really, wherever there happens to be a wall and a hole in the ground. But that's a good thing to do, especially if there's a lot of annoying enemy tanks that are just kind of going straight through you. That's something that you should probably try to be thinking about. And as we see right here, his team has a lot of tanks. But what he's trying to do is that when his abilities are off cooldown, he's walking straight into the front line. But after his abilities come back on cooldown, he walks straight back into the back line, or I guess the middle line, and tries to get a lot of medium range damage. It is a very unique thing about Zarya, and if you haven't really thought of her like that, her playstyle, maybe try to think that and try to go for that in the future and see if that does work for you at all. Of course, it works really well for him here. I feel like overall it does work pretty well. Now, of course, sometimes you will be with other tanks like Orisa, where you have to stay in the front line a lot more. But if you're with a lot of other tanks, or if you're just someone such as Reinhardt, of course, it's a very easy strategy to do, and especially having a shield can make you even more effective. She works with a lot of characters, but that's just a really good example. Now, some more stuff that we also see that this player is doing is saving their abilities until, of course, they get into the enemy's room. And it really gets straight up into the enemy's face, and until the enemy starts to shoot them. He doesn't really go for it all the time the second that his teammates are engaging. He waits a second, makes sure that they're all the way in there, and then that they're taking damage. And then, of course, he tries to block that damage as well as he possibly can. He isn't really just preemptively going for these things. He's kind of calculating when to go for his, of course, his E and his shift. Mainly for the fact that they have really such a long cooldown. As well with this, he is, of course, waiting for the enemies to come right next to him, and then going to shield himself. And overall, it's the smart thing to do, it's the easy thing to do, but a lot of people just kind of preemptively throw that shield out. They aren't really expecting that, well, they think that they're going to be hit, but they aren't being hit, so it's just kind of a waste. You should wait until you're being hit, then go for it, or wait until your teammates are very close to the enemies, and there's like a 90% chance that they're going to be hit, or that they're going to start hitting the enemies, and then just kind of go from there. It's a pretty easy thing to do again, but something that you should try to keep in your mind as highly as possible. Of course, another thing that I would like to say is that this comp is actually pretty good versus the enemy comp, and a really good idea. As Zarya, you can just melt through certain people. Roadhog, of course, you want to bait the hook as much as you can, but even if you don't happen to just get the hook, you do good in a lot of other ways. If you happen to wait right until they start to shoot you, you can just press out that shift, he fully charges your shift, and then you can kind of just melt straight through him. And of course, being able to block CC, that's always a great idea to do as well. Right here we see something that's pretty nice, which is if you have a huge advantage, you should be pushing it the best that you possibly can. Of course, this does work with any character in the game, but Zarya can work pretty well, as if you happen to have your shield up, there's not much they can do, as they either, again, shoot your shield or do nothing. So it does create that really awkward situation that I was talking about earlier, a really good situation for you. As we see here, though, just continuing to do damage, we see that he does actually have full health, but at the same time, his team's gone. Or at least there's like 1 or 2 people there, but it's definitely not worth engaging. And as well, he might have engaged if he had his abilities up, but he did not. You can't really underestimate how important Zarya's abilities are. I feel like a lot of people kind of think, even without any charge, I'll be able to get in there and do a lot of damage and win the team fight. You can sometimes, but probably not. Her abilities and that extra damage, it's just some of the most important things that you can try to get out, and that you can try to save, and you can just try to utilize. So make sure to actually prioritize those things and don't go in when they're down, as you probably aren't going to do the best. You probably shouldn't engage for the most part unless you're at least at 20 to 30%, and you want to wait until even more if you possibly can. And then of course just charge it up as much as you humanly possibly can. Continuing from right here, though, he's just going around the corners, trying to make sure that he can kind of gank behind people. Not exactly a full gank, but that he walks, pretty much, well, I guess he flanks them. He gets right to the side of them, and then goes for the kill. It doesn't always have to get right behind, but getting to the side does seem to be a good idea. It gives him a few extra seconds to get a few extra hits on, and of course with Zarya, you aren't really a burst character, so you do want to be there as long as humanly possible. Which means that she's pretty nice with some other characters like D.Va that can, of course, hold people off for quite a few seconds with her shield. So that's a good combo that they have going on right now, and just a really good idea that you can overall do quite easily. Right here we see something really kind of awkward for them. Of course, they ult the Zarya, which is a good idea. She's at full health, but at the same time, there happens to be a soldier which just does a little bit more damage. Anyways, though, it doesn't really matter way too much. We see some nice stuff right here, just protecting your teammates as much as you can. I think that there was actually a save right there by simply waiting a second and then going for that E. So, of course, there's another good example of that. As well, we see a lot of height advantage being used against this Zarya player, and she's kind of just using walls as a way to block it off. Of course, the Zarya player could happen to just stay in the wild, stay in the middle of the map, and try to get good positioning, which is really good. But if you can get good positioning while being able to hide behind walls and hide behind places where a soldier can't shoot you at far range, that's definitely an optimal thing to do. You should just be trying to think about all the damage, all the sources, and maybe if there's a soldier, and if he's really high up, you might think, maybe I should just stay out there for a second and tank it for a few seconds. Go back, heal, shield. Just think about the situation that you're in. And make sure not to just always walk straight up. A lot of people with Zarya do have a weird habit of walking straight in there and then just walking immediately out, of course, after their shield's gone. I don't know why it is. It's just something that really happens quite often. So if you happen to do that, kind of think a second before you immediately retreat. Of course, quite often it's a decent idea, but do think for a second. Right there we saw a really nice charge. Of course, being able to follow people is a really, really nice idea to try to figure out how to do. And when you are trying to get your maximum DPS, do remember that you shouldn't be really using your right click. It's nice to finish off kills. If people are getting far away, it's nice to do. It does have decent AoE damage, but if you're fighting 1 or 2 people, and if you have a lot of charge, like 80-90%, you're going to be able to get your kills a lot faster if you just use your left click. And of course, now since it's not really broken, where it wouldn't tick very often, now that it ticks like every single second, even the second that you start shooting the opponent, it does a lot more consistent DPS, and it should be used for the majority of the time. And we see that right here really often. Of course, he does shoot some right clicks around corners, or some right clicks right there at really, really far ranges, just to try to push people away, but often it isn't really trying to get as many kills with that thing, or trying to get as many just bursts with that thing. Just remember that you should get an equal mix of both of those, and you should be doing quite fine. Right here, of course, they're pushing up again. We have 3 tanks on this team comp, so it's a thing that does make a lot of sense. What they could happen to do is just try to get behind someone like the D.Va, but otherwise, there's not really much that they have to worry about, honestly. When you have 3 tanks, and of course, when you have Zarya and Roadhog, who both do a heck of a ton of damage, you're going to be able to get through a lot of people in the front line, and if the enemies can't push super fast, you should be able to just burst through them over and over again, while making so that your Roadhog's pretty safe with your E's or with your protected barriers, and of course making yourself pretty safe with your own barriers. So yeah, just kind of continue to do that. Push up as much as you possibly can. Of course, you shouldn't push up like past the staircase right there. You're going to be too far away. You won't be able to walk back. But as it is right now, you can push them back a few feet and you'll do decently enough. They pushed a bit too far, but that was really just because Winston had his ultimate up. But yeah, overall, that was pretty decent. Right there, of course, really nice E protecting his teammate. But as it is right now, 3 of his teammates are gone. You should probably just wait for everyone else and just kind of see what's going to be going on in the next few seconds. Not way too much to worry about, though. And a thing that I like that he does is that he kind of, focuses on the front line and makes it that his team follows behind him. Of course, a lot of the times you can try to flank around and you can try to get to the back line by yourself in team fights. And while flanking around is really useful when you're just trying to get a few picks, when you are in team fights, especially as Zarya, you can actually happen to get quite a few kills pretty easily in the front line, especially if you have full charge and if you are just getting charged the entire time by shooting the enemies. Right there was a super nice combo, of course. You do want to combo with Zarya with other combo ults. If you're playing Zarya without a combo ult on your team, you're pretty much just completely wasting her. So make sure you have a Pharah, make sure you have a D.Va, make sure you really have anyone. Like half the cast has combo ults. So it doesn't really matter way too much, but you should probably try to keep that in mind. Continuing from here though, she's just walking around the corner. Try to getting as much damage as possible. Maybe could have saved that guy, I guess. Would have projected barrier a second earlier, but I think that was on cooldown, so maybe not. And right here, they're just trying to stay on the point. When you do have very little people alive, depending on how many people you have, you can either try to push up, with 3 tanks because that's super hard to deal with. But if, of course, you're not with 3 tanks, you can try to stay on the point and just try to stay around the side. And again, use that trick where you use your barrier in order to stop people from walking around and to stop people from getting that damage out, because either they give you the barrier charge again or they happen to not do damage. Overall, just a thing that you should always keep in mind. As we come to a conclusion, though, here, we just kind of see more and more damage coming out from these people, more and more pushes, and overall, really nice positioning so that you can't be bodied from every direction, and also so that you're always in your target range at pretty decent medium range. So, if you can do any of that, it'll really help you win a lot of games. As always, though, guys, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Of course, this is a really nice VOD for this player, so thank them as much as you possibly can. As always, if you guys did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like, comment down below who you want to see for the next time. And as always, thank you guys for watching, though, and as always, have a wonderful day.